And what about some of these cultural issues around him? I mean, your paper, I believe, reported that his mother, Zohran Mamdani's own mother, who herself is quite a prominent filmmaker, said that she thinks of her son as not an American at all, her words, and that, quote, he thinks of himself as a Ugandan and an Indian. And others have seized on his comments about 9/11 and talking about his aunt, who wasn't actually his aunt, who said she felt uncomfortable taking the train after 9/11 because she wore a hijab. Well, I mean, I'm glad he identified who the real victims of that terror attack was. But how is all this going down?
I think what we're seeing right now in New York City when it comes to that is a shift in the electorate and this shift of the Democrat and the base here, right? So we're talking about somebody who is an immigrant, who his mother said he didn't feel American at that time. This interview was 2013. He came to this country when he was 7. He became a U.S. citizen in 2018. But there's been this shift, and what Andrew Cuomo, the things you're bringing up about the aunt and things you're bringing up about 9/11, obviously it being in New York City, a lot of these things have been shifting in the sense of those are attacks he was trying to land on them, which would traditionally, in the same thing with coming with anti-Semitism, right? So a lot of these things have come up with that. The shift of the base, the big blocks of voters in here are no longer the Jewish vote and the black vote, and more of the Indian and the Chinese vote in New York City. It's just a shifting demographic right now, and I think a lot of these things have been from a lot of attacks and all these kind of political maneuvering that have tried to create some fear, some bad negative press behind him to try to get support to Andrew Cuomo. But as I was saying, none of it has really moved the needle.
Yeah, I mean, that's fascinating what you're saying about the demographics there and the shifting ethnic demographics of political power in New York. Have the Cuomo people, or the Mamdani foes, I guess, to put it another way, have they made a tactical error here in bringing up cultural attacks that would play well with people who wouldn't vote for Mamdani anyway, instead of focusing on, the real negative effects of defunding the police, which Mamdani's had to run away from, having said a million times in the past, from his economics, which the middle and working class would pay the price for, and that sort of campaigning?
Well, I think the problem that they've had with this campaign is, and this is from talking with tons of political experts and people who've run campaigns, is, regardless of what you agree with of his policy from Zohran Mamdani, he has run a very hopeful campaign, right? It's not doom and gloom of New York City, everything is horrible. It's New York City is great. We want to make it better. And trying to run a negative campaign against that simply just does not resonate with voters, especially somebody like Andrew Cuomo has been dogged about coming in as kind of, coming in from Westchester as a carpetbagger and coming in to try to run the city, because trying to use this as an in to come back into political relevance. And I think that's a big thing with this race. And again, you can even see with Democratic voters. He was on a famous podcast this week, and Andrew Schultz is a comedian. He even said, he's like, I'm not a socialist. I don't agree with all of your policies, nearly any of them. However, you're coming in this with some ideas and some hope and not this doom and gloom. And that's why he was supporting him. So I think and again, this is what I was saying against with the polls across the city of his ideals and his policies, is they don't have overwhelming support, but Democrats and in the era that we have with President Trump and the sparring with them, they're looking for somebody who's going to fight for them. And I think that it doesn't even matter a lot of times if they agree with all of the policies or even at all.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Donald Trump there, because this brings me to my next question here. Has Zohran Mamdani, in a weird sort of way, hit on a very New York urban ethnic version of the Trump formula, i.e. positivity and huge social media presence? I mean, are the Democrats starting to crack this code here that's made Trump so successful?
Well, I think that's right. I think looking at the historic perspective of this, right? Like when Trump came into office, he tapped into Twitter and he tapped into a lot of these things that Obama did during his initial campaign, which used Facebook. And now we're on to the next iteration of that, which is Instagram and TikTok and these produced videos. Obviously, him coming from a movie background with his mother and everything like that, obviously his benefit of knowing famous actors and celebrities and such. But yeah, I think that when you look at the group that he's a part of, the Democratic Socialists of America, are very similar in the sense that they are very far left. They're very far left as the president has coalesced a big group of the country in the far right. And I remember in 2016 that, you know, when Bernie Sanders was running, and he's probably one of the better known DSA people next to AOC, when he was running for president against Hillary Clinton. Once that election ended, I remember one of my friends who's a correction officer coming to me and saying, I was a big Bernie supporter, but now I ended up and I'm voting for Trump. And this is like what we call in politics the horseshoe theories. You go so far left or right, you end up kind of as the same kind of person, the same kind of party.
Absolutely fascinating. Craig McCarthy, we're going to be reading your stuff in the NewYorkPost.com all week long coming up to see how this election goes and what happens afterwards. Thank you so much for your time.